I'm Michael Fox, and this is the Prospector News Podcast. And I am joined today by two, not one, but two guests, both from Canadian North Resources. I have joining me Sophy Cesar, the head of corporate development, and Trevor Boyd, who is a technical advisor to the company. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you guys. I love this story. This is a nice little gem that's been flying under everybody's radar as you guys have been, moving this project very quietly forward. And just a few weeks ago, you guys had some fantastic news that we'll touch upon shortly. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Sophy to give us that 1,000-foot view of the company as to what you are, where you're doing it, and why you're doing it, for those people that probably haven't heard about the company.
Thanks, Michael. I like what you said, that we're flying under the radar. So I very much believe that. We're actually exploring for critical minerals, so cobalt, nickel, copper, palladium, platinum, and rhodium up in northern Canada, Nunavut to be specific. And I think we're really, really well placed for that market as the world moves to carbon neutrality. And I know we're considered that we're in the junior mining space, but I'd like to think of us as, a development company, because this isn't a new project. It's been around since the 1950s. There's been over $190 million spent in infrastructure, in metallurgy, and in drilling. And that translates to over 225,000 meters of drilling and in over 750 holes. So it's a really exciting project. We've had, as you mentioned, some really exciting news come out recently. And I think that where we are now trading in the market, it's going to be a great entry point for anyone listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Not all juniors are created equally. And for a junior, and a lot of people haven't heard about, you guys are very well advanced. So Trevor, I would like to talk to you about the news release that came out a few weeks ago. You guys had come up with an updated resource estimate, and it was off the charts good. Tell us about that.
Yes, we're quite excited about it. Basically, the news release, which came out March 19th this year, showed that announced that the indicated resource had increased by about 172%. That is, we now have about 66 million tons of indicated resource at 0.47% nickel, 0.75% copper, 0.05% cobalt, plus 1.1 grams per ton palladium, and 0.19 grams per ton platinum. So we're quite excited about that. Plus, there's an inferred resource of about 26 million tons at about 0.58% nickel, 0.98% copper, 0.07% cobalt, 1.4 grams per ton palladium, and about 0.25 grams per ton platinum. But the most exciting thing about this is that about 80% of that indicated resource is open pit amenable, or potentially open pit amenable, and that opens up a lot of options for development sooner rather than later. You'll see from that in the news release that the mineral resources were estimated at an NSR cutoff for open pit of $33 per ton. And the NSR cutoff is $96 per ton for underground. So as you can see, the more we can move into open pit amenable material, more material we can move into that option, the better in terms of potential economics.
Yeah, open pit is always cheaper to operate than underground. Now, the mineral resource, the updates, with the growth in the resource, did it come from finding more resource, or was it confirming the the inferred resource and making it more prominently indicated?
We a little bit of both. Mostly, we were very successful in moving the vast majority of our resource from the previous initial mineral resource statement in 2000, which was released in 2022. We ended up moving almost all of it into open pit. So that is moving basically upgrading our inferred to indicated. We also managed to drill some, basically extend the resource or extend the mineralized material to the west and east along the 15-kilometer mineralized horizon, such that some of the drilling basically skipped it. We basically drilled straight into some new resource that ended up being qualified for indicated. So and also qualified for open pit. So there was a lot of movement in the upgrade of the quality of the resource.
This is, as I say, this is all good, and now you're getting very close to being able to look at this a little bit further. But that's not the only bit of good news that's come out recently. The hits keep coming for your company. You just had a release that really moved the stock in the last couple of days about the metallurgical testing of the minerals that are in the rocks. What can you tell me about that?
That's quite exciting. And when reading that news release that came out yesterday, you have to read it in context of the one of the release from March 19th announcing the updated resource, because in a sense they are very complementary to each other. And the news release yesterday basically announced the testing result and the interpretations from a series of flotation tests, which the company has been completing since 2016, and more specifically, specific tests of different what's called domains of mineralization, which were completed this year. Basically, what we've done is we have shown that, to put this in a nutshell, we have shown the potential for creating three payable concentrates from flotation testing, and that's important because this is the first time in the history of the project that this has been successful, because previous metallurgical work on the project has been mostly geared towards hydrometallurgical processes, which is a much more expensive and difficult means of extracting the metals. So that's the exciting part. Basically, we have managed to create three concentrates: a payable nickel, a payable copper, and PG, precious metal PGE concentrate. And that provides the company with much lower cost options for developing the mineralization and extracting it.
Yeah, so to me, I look at this, and baseball season has just started. I see this as like back-to-back home runs. You step up to the plate with the one hitter, he drives the ball out of the park with a fantastic mineral resource, and then the next guy up takes the first pitch out of the park again by having better metallurgical testing results that are going to lower the cost of extracting that mineral. Do I have that? Is that a good explanation for the lay listener out there?
Yes. So those two news releases complement each other, because you'll notice in the March 19th news release, they define in the parameters, they define the updated both the NSR values calculated based on long-term metal prices, and also on metallurgical recoveries. You'll notice in the parameters for the March 19th resource, it's that those parameters are based now totally on flotation testing. So as a result of that, you'll notice that the nickel in this case, we've taken a penalty of nickel over, such that the nickel recoveries are much lower. But also, when you look at the metal prices, you'll see that the last 2 years, the price of palladium has dropped considerably. So we have these two, I guess you might call them temporary hits on the value of the project. But what's exciting is that despite that, these two changes in the parameters, we were still able to considerably increase the tonnage and the value of the project. So we're taking these hits early, and so everyone knows what we're going, and you can see that it doesn't matter. This project is so good that we can look at these options, and in the future, because we're taking these hits now, we can explore these much lower cost options. And so we're going to get more than we give in here, very much so.
That's all exciting. So if we take all this data that we've just had in these last two releases, what does that say for what the company's going to do in the future from here?
The plan is to, because we're over the threshold for completing, for starting economic analysis. We're not sure if we're going to do a PEA or pre-feasibility, but we're exploring those options. We're doing what's called gap analysis to look at all the information that will be needed to trigger what's a pre-feasibility study. And we've also applied for a critical minerals infrastructure grant from NORCAN, the federal government, in order to start assessing various options for access to the project site from sea-linked communities nearby. Part of that process will be, of course, community consultation and also a government organization consultation, and also looking at surveys, doing preliminary surveys of environmentally sustainable routes to these communities from the project. Basically, we're looking at different all-weather road routes. With part and parcel of that, we will be continuing environmental assessments as part of that process, and this will be all under the infrastructure grant, and we'll know in about a couple of months whether we can get started on that in July. In the meantime, we are continuing to increase the size of the resource. We want to get it over 100 million tons. We're very close. We're about 92 million right now. And the 15-kilometer long mineralized horizon remains open to the east, the west, along strike, at both shallow and at depth. It also remains open down dip to the north. So there's a lot of blue sky for turning this into a world-class nickel, copper, cobalt, PTE deposit.
Yeah, lots of good work to come this year. Now, you mentioned government. Recently, the Nunavut government has cut a deal with the federal government so that they have more control over their resource development. Is this a good thing for the company?
We think it is. So the control over the natural resources in Nunavut will be similar to that in Northwest Territories now. We have an excellent relationship with the Kivalliq Inuit Association, which is essentially the regional government for the Kivalliq region of Nunavut. And the fact that they are going to have more control means that there'll be more local control. The Nunavut government, the people at the Nunavut government it's a proper, well-organized bureaucracy. Yes, it's slow, but everyone knows each other. People stay. There's no revolving chairs here. It's all very professional. So we're quite happy about that.
Well, you know what they say, slow and steady wins the race in the end. Yeah. So the fact that people stay and they're there on a long-term basis is generally better. You can go very fast, but if the person leaves, you almost have to start over again. And that ends up slowing the project down more than a slow process does often.
The local governments, they know the organizations, they know the companies, and they know the people in the companies better than talking to someone from Ottawa.
You know, definitely it's good to have boots on the ground in the community for sure. So we've got an exciting year coming up. Sophy, we'd like to keep this on everybody's radar instead of it flying under the radar. So with all the exciting stuff that's coming, how do people follow the company and keep up with the information as it happens?
So, Mike, we trade on the TSX Venture under the ticker CNRI, and we're on the OTCQX under the symbol CNRSF. They can also feel free to go to our website, cnresources.com, and there they can find the contact information. They can email info@cnresources.com, and that comes directly to my inbox, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone and answer any questions they may have. They can also sign up for our newsletter on the website as well.
That's perfect. For those that have been listening, I will put links to the 2 news releases that we have referenced in today's podcast at the bottom of this so that you can see the news with your own 2 eyes. And I'd like to thank Trevor and Sophy for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Michael. Always a pleasure.
Canadian North Resources is a paid sponsor of the Prospector News. The Prospector News podcast is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and are not to be taken as investment advice. Listeners need to do their own due diligence and seek advice of a licensed investment advisor.